Hello YouTube! Scott here with a review of Marvel's What If, Episode 8, very simply titled, What If Ultron Won? So you hear the title, and if you're like me, you're wondering where the MCU could possibly go from there, because if Ultron won, then all life on Earth is dead. But believe me, it's so much worse than you might think. So, here's what happened. The main variation in this universe is that Ultron was able to follow through with his plan of putting himself into Vision's body. And as Vision Ultron, or Ultron Vision, or whatever you want to call it, he was able to get past Jarvis and acquire the nuclear codes, which allowed him basically to bomb the crap out of Earth. Black Widow and Hawkeye were in a S.H.I.E.L.D. Quinjet above the Earth trying to take down the satellite network before it happened so he couldn't launch the nukes, but they were too late. So it opens with the two of them fighting off just so many Ultron clones, or robots, whatever, either one. And as that's happening, we get a little backstory, which was basically everything I just mentioned, except it gets so much worse. Because at one point, you see, I'm just calling him Ultron, even though he looks like Vision, standing at the top of Avengers Tower, looking out over New York, and who should show up but Thanos? Infinity Gauntlet on his hand, 5 stones in it. And without even a word, Ultron uses the Mind Stone and slices Thanos in half. So now, Ultron has all the Infinity Stones on that sort of suit of armor we saw him in the last episode at the end of the whole What If Thor Was an Only Child thing. And he lays waste to the universe. He destroys the Guardians. He destroys the planet that I knew the name of at the beginning of this from Ragnarok, but I don't now. He takes out the Nova Corps. He kills Ego, which I wasn't that upset about. When he gets to Xandar, Captain Marvel attacks him, and the amount of power he unleashes to destroy her takes out Xandar and pretty much every neighboring planet around it. And at the end, once everyone is dead and he's finally at peace, that's where it gets interesting. See, throughout all these episodes, we've seen Uatu, right? The Watcher, just watching and narrating. Well, apparently Ultron's power is so great that he can hear Uatu. And Uatu has to block off his vision of that universe before Ultron breaks through. So meanwhile, Black Widow and Hawkeye make their way to the remains of Moscow and into the KGB archives in the hopes that they can find another copy of Armin Zola. Remember how in Winter Soldier he put his consciousness into a database at Camp Lehigh? Well, it turns out in this universe there's another one of them, and it's being stored in that same lab from Civil War where the Russian Super Soldier Project was stationed. And there's actually a scene in the archives where Uatu's like trying to talk Hawkeye into looking into a certain box because that's where the file on Zola is. He can't help him because he's sworn not to interfere, but he can like see Ultron coming for him. And as the two of them figure that out, Ultron breaks into the space between multiverses, I guess, which is where Uatu is, and they start to fight. Uatu realizes, he has to defend the multiverse because Ultron can see it. He's got this line about how there's so many universes and so much chaos and how basically he has to bring order to it. And, he's a murderous AI with 6 Infinity Stones, so he's got a pretty good chance. Back at the lab in Siberia, Black Widow and Hawkeye manage to talk Zola's consciousness into helping them. He gets downloaded into one of Hawkeye's arrows and shot into a drone, and they attempt to link into the Ultron hive mind, but for some reason it doesn't work. And after they escape the silo, and Hawkeye saves himself in a reversal of the scene from Infinity War, where he falls to his death instead of Black Widow, and I know this is totally out of left field at this point, but he has a mechanical, like robotic right arm for some reason. Zola tells Black Widow that he can't really link into the hive mind because Ultron is not anywhere in the observable universe. And that's because he's still fighting with the Watcher across the multiverse. They're like flying through universes at this point, and it's really visually stunning the way, like, every time Ultron hits him, they seem to flash into a universe where things are different. At one point, he goes crashing to the ground in New York, and on the big screen in Times Square, you see Steve Rogers taking the oath of office to become president. There's a point where it looks like Wakanda took over. There's jungles, there's frozen tundra. There's a whole desert scene where Uatu basically sort of mans up and starts fighting back. And it doesn't really work. And by the end, he has to go run and hide. And Ultron doesn't care. He's got like the path to the entire multiverse in front of him and nothing but time left. So presumably that's the point where he shows up in the Thor universe from the last episode. We find Uatu, who sent himself into the pocket universe that Doctor Strange created for himself, I believe back in episode 3, when he was trying to reverse an absolute point in time. And he's a little smug about the fact that Uatu needs his help. And that's where they ended, just inside that tiny little pocket universe, just the two of them, against like the worst possible version of Ultron. I gotta say, this one, like, I thought some of the other ones had dark endings, but you're talking about Ultron with the Infinity Stones ready to completely destroy the entire multiverse. So, yeah, this is pretty dark and a little bit hopeless, even though Uatu goes on multiple times about how, Black Widow and Hawkeye are humans and they always have hope in the darkest of situations, even though Clint was clearly losing his. I gotta tell you, I am really looking forward to the next one, because it looks like, they're finally starting to tie everything together. Uatu's gone from just watching and narrating to actually participating. Clearly they're building up to something. And I will say about this episode, this one seemed to have, like, the highest number of sound-alikes. I believe it was only Jeremy Renner and Benedict Cumberbatch who were voicing their characters. Everyone else was pretty passable, actually. But I think that's about all I have to say. You can let me know what you thought of the episode down below. Do all the usual YouTube stuff, like, comment, share, subscribe. And until next time, I've been Scott, and this has been Opinions No One Cares About. Everyone has opinions. This one was mine.